to another episode of the Hindu Perspective here on IETV. Of course, the Hindu Perspective, a special program of Swaha Incorporated and the Dharma Mandal in particular, or the board of Swaha. And with me today are your regular presenters. We have a senior pundit of the Dharma Mandal, the illustrious Pandit Panigyandev Prasadji, and of course, the president of Swaha, Pandit Jaidat Maharaj. And they're joining with me and, of course, with all of you as we lead and start the discussion on a very important topic, a topic that I'm sure will be of great interest to all our viewers. Now, at this time, we always begin with prayer. And, if it is possible and you could adopt attitude of prayer, maybe sit up, put your hands together, that will be appreciated. If not, wherever you are, we contemplate upon divinity, Gajanan Swami. In a few short days, of course, we celebrate um, Ganesh Jayanti, the start of Ganesh Utsav period. Indeed, these few weeks, in fact, a very special period. We are coming to the end of the month of Shravan, which we know is a very auspicious month, as many of our devotees would be worshipping Lord Shiva in particular, but all the other forms. We have Sri Krishna Bhagwan to be worshipped also, the Janmashtami, and then Ganesh Baba, Ganesh Utsav. We focus upon the Lord. Om Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kurume Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada Om Shri Vigneshwaraya Namaha Om Ganganapate Namaha Boliye Shri Gajanan Swami Ki Jai Swaha Mata Ki Jai. To introduce our topic for today, I hand over to Pandit Jaidat Maharaji. And one thing I want to mention before Panditji starts, and I hope you all, well, of course, you should be noticing it for those who are regular viewers of IETV and the Hindu Perspective. I want to commend our crew here, our team at IETV. I'm seeing my colleague, my brother Pandits on screen with me, which I think is a big plus so that we could get the better interaction on screen. I hand over to Panajaidat.
Thank you very much, Pandit Ishwar. And of course, congratulations for the updates on ITV. And of course, we are happy to have Pandit Ishwar back with us, who was out of the country for 2 weeks, and he's here with us now once again. And today we are going to talk about an issue, which really is Hindu marriages. When I say an issue, really a topic. And over the next few weeks, of course, we'll be looking at different religious ceremonies and some of the different perspectives that we can consider when you're looking at these. Now, of course, we all would have been part of a Hindu marriage. We would have witnessed, we would have participated. And of course, there are so many questions that we do not have the answer to. And we are hoping that today we can look at the ceremonies and, of course, look at what are the social realities that face us on a daily basis. And if you notice what Swaha does, that Swaha believes our philosophy is that of enlightened ritualism. We do not believe that we practice rituals simply for the sake of practicing rituals, but in fact, we practice rituals with an understanding of why we do what we do. And so today we are going to look at the historical perspective, the social perspective, and we're going to look at scriptural grounding, as well as some of the issues that we face as a society as it relates to marriage. And there are certain particular issues, of course, that's going to come up through the course of the conversation and discussions. And of course, as is customary, we always start off with our senior most pundit, Panagyandev, who can give us some of the historical perspective, or of course, whatever he deems fit to start off our discussion for this afternoon. So, Panditji.
Thank you very much, Panajaidat. As usual, when we begin, we normally take our grounding from the scriptures. I write a quote from the Bhagavad Gita, and in chapter 3, verse 16, Krishna Bhagwan says, "Hey Parth, जो पुरुष इस लोक में इस प्रकार परंपरा से प्रचलित सृष्टि चक्र अनुकूल नहीं बढ़ता, अर्थात अपने कर्तव्य का पालन नहीं करता, वह इंद्रियों द्वारा भोग से रमन करने वाला पापायु पुरुष व्यर्थ ही जाता है." He is saying basically that God created the world and puts his son in place. He says, he who does not follow the will of creation, first set going in this world, does not perform his duties, leads a sinful and sensual life, lives in vain. So this is the words of Krishna Bhagavan. I talk on marriage. So the will of creation says what? And I'll take from one of our scriptures, the Grihas Gita, which says there are 8 types of marriages. I will go into that eventually. But I want to mention one which says, आजकल पुरुष पुरुष को साथ ही स्त्री स्त्री के साथ भी विवाह करने लगे हैं. That is, nowadays we have what we call samling marriage. Samling marriage is a Hindi word. It means the same gender marriage. And that is something we have to deal with. What Hindus say about that. Now, my mind goes and we'll discuss these contemporary issues where we have, right now we have the threat of monkeypox. And every time I hear the news, I'm hearing the presenter saying monkeypox is spread primarily between men who have a relation with men. And it wouldn't stop it. They continue and continue spreading. And primarily it is spread between men who have relations with men. So they begin, Hinduism says marriage is between a man and a woman. A man and a woman. Not between a man and a man, not between a woman and a woman. So we'll continue discussion and pass on to Pandit Jaidat. And from there we'll take it forward, marriage, and then we'll deal with when we get married, what are the steps in marriage, what are the occasions which marriage has to take place, and the historical perspective of marriage, taken from our Hindu Marriage Act of 1945. So I'll pass on to Pandit Jaidat ji.
Okay, so thank you, Pandit, for your opening comments, and I'll pass over to Pandit Ishwar for his, just to share his initial thoughts on the subject, and then we'll pass over to Pandit Gyandev, who will give us an idea of the Hindu Marriage Act, because of course, as you know, the issue of homosexual relationship is not the same as homosexual marriage, because the marriage between two persons where it is legally recognized, that is a legal issue, that is separate. And of course, in Trinidad and Tobago, the Marriage Act does not allow for that. So relationship and marriage, two separate things. So of course, as we continue the discussion, those things will come up. But to share his perspective on the topic as we continue the discussion, we'll pass over to Pandit Ishwar.
Thank you, Panaji. And one thing I wanted to say at the onset, having heard, those opening comments of Pandit Gyandev, and I'm sure we'll come to that in a short while, a little later on. We, for a couple of weeks, just before, as Pandit Jaidat mentioned, I was away for a little while. When we had Pandit Umadat on, of course, we were discussing the 4 stages of life. And we know there's a brahmachari stage, firstly, and then the Grihast Ashram. Grihast Ashram starts with marriage. The Viva Sanskar is extremely important. The fact that it is a Sanskar, so in many ways we may look at it as a rite of passage. It is something that we may even say is our duty, the duty of every individual or Hindu to fulfill certain obligations. And one of them, not necessarily just to get married because we feel that this is something that you have to do, but if we are to follow and we believe in Sanatan Dharma, the 4 stages of life, there's a Grihast Ashram. And many will say, of course, to lead a sattvic life. So we exist in, either the stage of, or the state of sattva, rajas, or tamas, right? Important is to be married and to be wedded in the right way, of course, and we'll discuss that a little bit about the types of marriages there are, and to ensure that we ourselves are leading a life that is in conformity with Sanatan Dharma, with our teachings. So I'm saying Viva Sanskar is important. It is not necessarily just an option. Today we are seeing so many people living a very liberal lifestyle, frivolous lifestyle. We may say a loose lifestyle in some cases.
you. But I know that you would have had some basic information we can share with us to enlighten our listeners about the history of the Hindu Marriage Act in Trinidad and Tobago, maybe what were some of the implications before that act came about, and of course after the act also.
Thank you, Panditji. In Trinidad and Tobago, even we, when our parents got married, the act was not passed yet, which was in 1945, the act was passed. So we were illegitimate children. We couldn't have right of property, rights to our parents, inheritance, and so on. So when that act was passed, it corrected all that. So we became legitimate by the pass of an act. Although they were done, the marriage was done in accordance with the Hindu tradition, the law of Trinidad and Tobago doesn't recognize it. So now that act was passed to rectify all those negativities. And this law, this Hindu Marriage Act, was passed based on an act from India called the Sharda Act. The Sharda Act was one which is in India, was enacted in 1929. And that put the age of marriage to 14. And they used that in the Hindu Marriage Act in Trinidad. So initially it was that. But now in 2022, we know that there have been changes to that act in India, and the minimum age for marriage is 18. And now there's a new move to change it to 21 in India. So the historical perspective is that we followed India because we were Indian immigrants. And we were from India and the British were ruling us. So everything was done like that. So we became legitimate citizens of Trinidad and Tobago and became legal children of Trinidad and Tobago. So the Hindu Marriage Act corrected that imbalance of removing all those negativities that were illegitimate and you have rights to property. So the Hindu Marriage Act of 1945 corrected all that. And unfortunately, because they were following the Act of India, we were guided by Indian laws, we used the Sharda Act, which brought the age to 14. And we also know that has been corrected. The historical perspective will take into consideration just now. Now, right now, the Hindu Marriage Act has certain things. And I have with me here, which is all parents have one, it's called the Hindu Marriage Form. So once you're a Hindu marriage officer, you must fill out this form. And in Trinidad and Tobago, what happened, because of the fact that Hindu weddings are very, pompous, it's very well known, it's well established. So when one has to get married months before, you print cards, build tent, invite people. So in Hindu marriage, you do not have to put up banns like other weddings. So one of the things the Hindus have is that I'm a marriage officer, and when I get married, I just call you, but there are proviso for it. One, you must be a Hindu. So anybody who marries two people who are not Hindus is breaking the act. So you must be, both parties must be Hindu. According to the act, you must profess Hinduism and practice Hinduism. So any two Hindu who want to get married, they go to the Pandit today, and today you get married. And that wedding is solemnized. And we send it to the Registrar General Office, and that is registered as a legal entity. So the Hindu Marriage Act has that. And one of the things I let Pandit Ishwar elaborate a bit, because he has been plenty with him. Pandit Ishwar is a well popular Pandit. And when I get married, I'll call him because he is popular and he's well known and he sings well and he knows, he has information also. So the Hindu Marriage Act has the Hindu Marriage Certificate, which needs upgrading. I remember in 1995, I did the thesis and sent to the government, telling them that these things need to be upgraded. Obviously, nothing happened. Because the act, what it does, all the thing about woman liberation and woman equality and thing, all that is negative in this act. So this Hindu Marriage Act does not recognize the mother. So if the mother has a child, the father's died, the mother has get somebody else. How many times we have experienced that? One time for Kanyadan, I will talk about the stages in the wedding just now. One time for Kanyadan, which simply translates means giving away of the bride. Now it has become giving away of the bride. Kanyadan was something different before. So when that time comes, the mother, whose husband has died, had to get somebody else to do it. You know how hurtful that is for me? My child getting married and I can't give away, I had to let some other couple do it. So all these things need to be corrected. And it's still like that. So I'll pass on to Pandit Ishwar, who can expatiate a bit about the Hindu Marriage Act and all the sections where only the husband recognized, the husband father, the mother is recognized, nobody is recognized except the males in it. And the female recognized only so far as she is the wife of so and so. So I'll pass on to Pandit Ishwar, who will continue along this line of discussion.
Thank you, Panditji. Yes, so Definitely, this is one that really has become a sore point for many people, because I myself would have done a number of weddings, and I'm sure many of our pundits here, other pundits of Swaha, and pundits in general, and you often have this problem. And the father, so quite often the bride or the groom will say, "But my father is deceased 10 years, 20 years ago. Can I put my mother's name?" No, the mother's name is not there on that form. So right away we see that actual that certificate upon which we sign, and you have the witnesses sign, and the pundit will sign and put his stamp also, authenticating it and submit it. There's no semblance of the mother's name there. And definitely, a society, we had one of our programs talking about the women's rights for Women's Day. Imagine the mother is not recognized and is not written. Not that she's no longer your mother, or isn't there. Your mother is there observing everything, but has not gotten that right to actually for the name to be stated there. And this, it speaks of course an archaic way in looking at marriages, and Hindu marriages in particular. And Panagyan, they will give a little bit of the history of how the current Hindu Marriage Act came into being. So we see that certain amendments need to be made. Now, there's one other important aspect of the certificate, marriage certificate, that form that we complete and we submit. And this is one that I've been asked quite recently. We know for a fact, and many of you would know, sometimes women earn more than the men. Sometimes they are getting married, and it could even be where the husband is not currently employed and the woman is gainfully employed, the bride or the dullahin. And nowhere on the form has to put the bride's occupation. So you have occupation of husband, and address, and of course age and so on. So why is it in 2022 a woman who could be a doctor, she could be a lawyer, she could be a teacher, an engineer, she could be prime minister, whatever she may be, but her occupation is not written there. She's tied to that husband, of course, the name of the husband and the occupation of the husband. She is the wife of this man, of this individual, this person. What about her own identity? Her job is not written. Nothing, her mother's name is not written. So these are certain little inequities that need to be corrected. And I'm saying, of course, I know other groups have asked for it also. Certain necessary amendments to the Hindu Marriage Act need to be made to ensure that it is brought into not just the 21st century and beyond. We want to see, equality. We want to see something that is much more rational um, in how it deals with our people, our Sanatanist Hindus. At this point, we take a break and we continue this wonderful discussion on Hindu marriages after the break. Sitaram.
Join us as we explore contemporary issues facing societies worldwide. Interviews and discussions featuring local and international experts. You can participate in our live call-in segments, a program of the Board of SWAHA.
Join live every Tuesday evening at 4:30 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. and prime time at 7 p.m.
Sitaram, and welcome again, dear viewers. So before the break, we were speaking about some of the, I put it this way, inequities then, and some of the missing elements of the Hindu marriage certificate or marriage register. And among them, the main thing, no mention of the mother's name, whether it's the bride or groom's mother is not mentioned. And in many cases, the mother may be the only person responsible, and that the father may have passed on. And the mother is not mentioned. Another very serious omission is not having the occupation of the bride or the dullahin. So we see this, as members of Swaha, as pundits and the Mandal of Swaha, as two major things that need to be corrected as soon as possible. And I call on other groups also who think alike. And I know Pandit Jaidat Maharaji, as the president of Swaha, this is something we'll be looking at and maybe engage in discussions of the other Hindu groups in our society, Sanatanist Hindu groups in particular, to see whether, we can make further, movements towards having these amendments made and these changes made. But to continue discussion, I hand over to Panajayda ji.
Yeah, thank you to both pundits, and of course, those are, I mean, certainly very relevant points. And again, the reason is because in older society, this was in nature of a society that women did not work in the way that they work now. They were not professionals. They were mainly homemakers. So therefore, the identity of a Hindu couple, if you can use that term, was really based on the lineage of the man, of the male. And even the way that the wedding is conducted is also based on the lineage of the male. And sometimes those things come to bear on what we see playing out in terms of the Hindu Marriage Act and all of that. So this is not a justification. It's just to understand why things are how they are. And I always say that once we understand why they are how they are, only then can we change it. So that, of course, when we analyze it, the reason that the act is in this way, it is because of the nature of society at a different time. We may say archaic, an older time, more traditional time, a time that was different from what we observe now in terms of opportunities and new laws and all those things that come to bear on our society. Of course, something else, I mean, we live in a plural society, and you're not always going to find that a Hindu is going to marry another Hindu. It doesn't happen all of the time, and that's just a reality. It is not our places to make a judgment call on it. I mean, everyone has their choice. But in essence, what the Hindu Marriage Act is saying is that you have to put a sect. So that, of course, we always say that Hindus do not convert. But what we are in fact saying is that in order for you to get married, you have to convert and become a Hindu. That you cannot maintain your identity as anything else. Even if you were to be, let's say, an atheist or an agnostic, whatever it may be, that you're not allowed to put that. So in essence, they are saying that you have to be dishonest in order for that marriage to be recognized by law. So those are some of the things that needs to be rectified and addressed. And as Panditji mentioned, the only way we can do that is if all organizations are like-minded and see the issues that our women face in particular, because the men are not disadvantaged yet. But of course, the women, and as Panditji rightly said, that every time we do a wedding for a young professional and we ask for that information, the first question, well, Pandit, why is it that the name of the mother is not here? Don't you need the mother's address? They believe that we are leaving out information. Don't you need my occupation also, my place of work? Because, of course, I mean, in this age where women are trying to find their place, and as a responsible organization, we support that. We want to ensure that we find persons of like mind to ensure that we can get the changes that we want. So Panditji have taken this down as a note, Pandit Gyanu, Pandit Ishwar, and it is something that we as an organization will follow up with other organizations and see the changes that we can bring. So that's a critical point that we have addressed here. Pandit Gyanu spoke about the history. Pandit Ishwar, he spoke about some of the realities that we face as it relates to the Marriage Act. We also spoke about the scriptural injunction or the grounding for this, and maybe you can go into that a little deeper. So Pandit Gyanu and Pandit Ishwar, if you can describe, some of the scriptural injunction or some of the precedents and scriptures for the Hindu Marriage Act, not the acts, or the practice, what we see, how it is done in terms of the format and how that plays out in what we observe in the Hindu marriage ceremony that we know today. So maybe Pandit Gyanu, we can go to you first.
Thank you, Pandit Jayat. I'd just like to mention two things before I go into what Pandit Jayat suggested. One, directly from the Act, where it says that, as Pandit Jayat talked about conversion, the Act says that each party to the marriage, this is exactly from the Act, shall belong to and profess the Hindu faith. Shall belong to and profess the Hindu faith. So you can't take a non-Hindu and marry them and say, you're doing another Hindu Act. You are breaking the Hindu Act. And secondly, it says, it must be solemnized in accordance with the rites of the Hindu religion. So you just can't go and sign a form and say, go ahead. No, you have to do the rites of the Hindu organization. What are the rites? And this is what Panjal is talking about. Is it Bhavar? Is it Sindur Dan? Is it Mangal Sutra? What are the rites of the Hindu wedding, which must be done? So although you want to marry two persons, first, both must be Hindus. And we don't have any kind of certificates in your Hindu, but you must sit down there. And in the modern way of saying it, you must at least be initiated. So if a Pandit wants to marry two people, one who's not a Hindu, initiate them first. Give them a Guru Mantra. And secondly, let them do Havan. These are the things that we must do to make sure you follow the Hindu Marriage Act. And thirdly, you must make them do something. Go around the fire, Bhavar is called, or Sindurdan, ring and tongue, every religion has put on ring. The Sindurdan, Bhavar, and Mangal Sutra, which is the Hindu way of marriage. And ring is something is there, definitely. And I want to mention one thing. I'm going to read from a document here which says, through marriage, the stage is set for a stable home, to bring children into the world, to bring children into the world. Two man can have a child, two women can have a child. By producing children who are assets in society, and one who has paid his ancestral debt and has played his role in the continuation of the world. So marriage is about that, perpetuation of the race. And it is said here, ancestral debt. You know, they are saying, we must follow tradition, as Krishna Bhagavan said in the Gita. Now, what is tradition? Tradition comes from two sources. One, the living, and two, the dead. Tradition comes from living. And our ancestors, they say tradition is called pressure from the dead, to follow the tradition we have. So my great-grandfather, what did I have to do it? That is called peer pressure from the dead. So the tradition is like that. And you have been living, you have to follow my father and mother, what they did, I must follow that also. So in the document and in the scripture, it says that we have to live and perform the rites as sanctioned by the scriptures of Krishna Bhagavan in the Gita. And I just want to make 2 points again before I pass on to Panishwar. One, Panishwar will know, if you do a wedding in San Fernando, and you live in Arima or San Grande, you were in San Fernando, you have to go back to San Fernando to submit that form. I had made that recommendation. We should change that. You could submit the form to any Inland Revenue Office. Why you go back to the same one? It's a big burden on the Pandit. And one of the things is, the Hindu Marriage Act, I also found it very despicable. But we let it pass because we couldn't change it then. But it needs to be changed now. When you check the Hindu Marriage Act, what do you see? You see names of certain organizations. Why is it you have certain organizations named in Hindu Marriage Act? Is it kind of, well, I would say it is because at that time it was like that. But I'm going to call the names, but a certain organization mentioned, organizations which are not even considered Hindu organizations, but they say I'm Hindu, and say any other Hindu organization, which we recognize by the president or hereafter provided. So one of the recommendations to change the Hindu Act is take out the name of all organizations, or put all, take out the name. Why are you showing preference to certain organizations? But that is historical perspective. So we are saying the Hindu Marriage Act is for perpetuation of race and for continuation of tradition. And say tradition is from what our ancestors do and what our parents do. So we have to make sure we follow that according to Krishna Bhagavan. We will talk about the stages in the Hindu Marriage Act and Pasan Panishwar. What we have, how you choose the bride, Sita Mata, Swayambar, Kanyadan, Sindurdan, Tilak, Agwani, all those things. So I'll pass on to Ishwarji, Panditji.
Thanks, Panigyandev. And indeed, a very interesting discussion and wonderful points raised by Paniji there. One thing I wanted to touch on, and this is something that the reality is many of our pundits have actually had the cause to perform ceremonies where perhaps one individual may not have been Hindu or may not have been a practicing Sanatanist Hindu, and certain adjustments had to be made. And the main one I wanted to say, because in conformity with the act, while Panajayda said there's nothing like conversion in Sanatan Dharma, I go back to even Ramchrit Manas, when Hanumanji was in battle with many of the Rakshasas, as he was lift them up, take them up to dash them to the ground. He would say, Ram bol, or bolo Ram, chant the name of Ram. Those who chanted Ram, perhaps, I don't know how he spared them, but he went easy on them, right? They were given a chance to profess their love and their admiration, their devotion to Sri Ram. And those who chant the name of Ram, it is mentioned in the earth and little Itihas, they were spared. So in effect, that is almost conversion. But we shy away from saying it. So what we as Hindus and as Pandits of Swaha, and I'm sure many of our Sanatanist Pandit brothers would do, we would ask that they are initiated before. So they are accepting Sanatan Dharma as their way of life and as their religion. So I want to make the point. You may go to a wedding, you will say, well, this is sometimes, talk that comes back to the pundit. Well, how come pundit, this pundit or that pundit would have done this wedding? This boy, the Dulaha is not Hindu, or Dulahin is not Hindu. We know we would have gone through that process before. And certain adjustments and certain, I shouldn't say adjustments, certain, necessary rites and rituals would have been performed, right? Worship and puja would have been done, and initiation would have been done as the case may be. And it's interesting to note that even today, where many ask for a simplified form, some of them just simply want to come and sign the register. I could tell you our pundits, the majority of pundits that I know, not just our Swaha pundits, we shy away from that. In fact, we would not just allow two people to come and sit and you sign a book, sign a register. It doesn't work like that. There must be some significant act. Remember, I started by saying it is a sanskar, sattvic in nature, meant to transcend from one level to the next, meant to take us. Why do we have these stages of life? The end goal is moksha liberation. We cannot just sit and ignore all that we have been taught for thousands of years. So whether it is performance of Havan, the Bhavar, the Sindur Dan, Mangal Sutra Dan, as Pandit Gyandev mentioned, that must be done. Something of some religious or spiritual significance has to be done. And I appeal also to our Pandit brothers who may be looking. Let us try as far as possible to desist from falling into or falling prey to individuals who just want a very simplistic, or look at the Hindu marriage as something oppressive or something too tedious, and they want a very simple way out. They want a shortcut. I'm saying modifications, yes, can be made, but keep the essence of it alive. Understand how important this ceremony is. I come back to the term sattvic nature. Sattvic prakriti is important. Our very nature of truth, goodness. It is said that, once the Viva Sanskar is done, there are 8 types of marriage. The Brahm marriage, a Brahm Viva. That's the highest one. This is the one that we propagate here in Trinidad. It comes from the marriage of Sri Ram and Sita Mata. The marriage you would have seen of, depicted also of Shankar Bhagwan and Parvati Mata, starting with the Bharat, Milap, and Parchin, Dwar Puja, the Janvas, and the wonderful way in which they were received into Janakpur. Or, these are important, and these are the steps, the initial steps that we follow. And quite often, the various steps in the Brahm Viva take, precedence then from these historical, I'm saying historical, from the Viva Sanskar that was done thousands of years ago of the Lord himself. So marriage following such practices, such a Viva Sanskar, such a Vidhi then, is important in that it brings forth also children, that, it promotes that sattvic procreation, if you could use that term, very important in Sanatan Dharma. So this is something I want to, say categorically, that as we move forward, understand that our pundits, quite often we are asked to do things that we feel are compromising our principles, but there are certain minimum standards, as Pandit Gandhi was saying, we must maintain. Failure to do so, we're also contravening the same act that we all fall under, that we are asked to uphold. So while we push for certain amendments and certain changes, we need to maintain the sanctity of the marriage, the Viva Sanskar, and also keep ensuring that we conform to the actual rules and regulations of the Marriage Act. I know we said we will go through the stages, but Panajida, I don't know if anything you want to add before we move on.
Yeah, sure. And I know we have to take a break in 3 minutes or so. But what I just like to say is that definitely this is very interesting discussion. But one of the things, of course, we need to consider is that we have to disaggregate the Hindu Marriage Act from the ceremony. I know that may sound a little contradictory, but we have the Hindu Marriage Act, which really guides the legal aspect of it. So you have Hindus that are getting married to be recognized by the state. And the common practice is that during the course of the Vivaha Sanskar, as Pandit Ishwar mentioned, that is a Sanskar that we normally do the signing and legal part. But there's no rule or hard and fast rule that says that during the marriage ceremony, that you have to do the legal part. So that, the issue Panagano brought up about if you do a wedding in San Fernando, you have to go and sign it there. I mean, there are ways around that. And I mean, I can tell you, at least for myself, what I let anyone I do wedding for, let them know that my office is at my home. And therefore, we will follow the form and sign the forms there. That's the legal part of it. And then, of course, you have the marriage part of it. And you're not contributing any rules by doing that. You're not breaking any laws. You're not doing anything unethical, because really they are two separate things. They are linked in the sense that you have the legal part and you have the ceremony. But for the state doesn't care what you do and the type of wedding that you do. All they're concerned about is the legal part, and that legally everything is done in the right way. So that, there are ways that we can find to modify and to make changes that makes it more convenient for everyone. But as Panditji is suggesting, the caveat is that we do not compromise the things that are the most important. And when we come back from our break, we shall go back to Pandit Gyandev, Pandit Ishwar, who are experts, of course, and they will give us, tell us what are the most important parts. And when it comes to not the legal part, not the Hindu Marriage Act, when it comes to the Vivaha Sanskar, what are the key elements? What are the minimum things that needs to be done for this to be said from a spiritual point of view, that two persons, that marriage has been sanctified in the eyes of divinity and Bhagwan. So we'll take our break now and then we'll return.
Join us as we explore contemporary issues facing societies worldwide. Interviews and discussions featuring local and international experts. You can participate in our live call-in segments, a program of the board of SWAHA.
Join live every Tuesday evening at 4:30 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. and prime time at 7 p.m.
So welcome back to the program, The Hindu Perspective. We have Pandit Jairat Maharaj, President of SWAHA, Pandit Ishwar Maharaj, Secretary of the Board of SWAHA, top many organizations. And when they speak, it has weight. And we'll continue the discussion on the Hindu marriage. And I want to mention, we mentioned the areas and parts of the Hindu marriage. Firstly, in the Hindu marriage, there's something called Sanmukh. Hindu getting married, they wear big Parisian thing on the face and hide up all about something. So one of the requirements is that he must move these things. And Dulahan told him must watch each other. It's called Sanmukh. That means in front of your face. And say, yes, this is the person I'm going to get married to. I know personally at least 2 cases where a fella married wrong girl. People these days that something else, they put a different girl for the wedding. For whatever reason. It is unusual. But if you did the wedding correctly, the Pandit have said, now show one of your face. So there's no way of hiding your face for the entire wedding. Yes, you come in a Dulahan, you have your face covered, Dula have your face covered also, but now face each other. And the Pandit's duty is to say, is this the person you accept to get married to? Then he has the Dulaha, is this the person you accept to get married to? And they have to say, both have to say yes. They have to say, that's the person. And the Pandit must say, okay, now, once you agree, we can go further. If they don't agree, the wedding is finished right there. So many people think that Hindu wedding is where you cover your face and the ladies put a veil and the men do all kind. No, Sanmukh is called. Show your faces. And the next important one is Kanyadan. Now, nowadays, Kanyadan means the giving of the bride. So that you have the giving of the bride, and the Hindu Marriage Act, it says the father must give consent. If the father dead, the guardian. If there's no guardian, then you can go to the mother, which is quite on the line. It's unusual. So that Kanyadan is given away of the bride in English is called. And that must be done. In other words, and then that has implications for what we see in Indian way called movies, which is stupidness, which is counterproductive of Hinduism. Right now, there's a big move to tell Bollywood, stop condemning and stop making Hinduism so stupid. What is said, Kanyadan is, I give you something. If I give you something, it's still mine? It can't be mine. I give it to you, Kanyadan. That means given away. And this is not Hinduism, this is all religions. But other religions, what they do, like their business. We talk about Hinduism. So in Kanyadan, when you give away the girl becomes part of the boy's family. And I don't like the term daughter-in-law because it means she's in law only. Only in law she recognized. It's daughter. In Hindu, we have the term Bahurani. Bahurani. Bahurani means that one who's like a queen in the house. So your daughter-in-law is even better than your own daughter, according to Hindu Marriage Act. Your daughter is somebody else's daughter. You know, they were saying women grow up in cultural space. I have a daughter. Thank God I don't have none. I don't have any daughters. But if I have a daughter, I have to grow up, educate her, take care of her properly, and then tell her next man, okay, take her and go and take care of her. That's what I call living in cultural space. She has to change. It's a very, 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 unusual thing. I remember this lady from India, Malini Awasthi, came down here through the courtesy of Swaha, and she sang some beautiful songs. When the girl is, my apologies, I was for truth. When the girl is leaving home, she's asking, father, mother, why are you doing this? But it's not Hinduism, it's everybody across the world. This is why I always tell people, when you have a daughter in your home, treat them even better. Treat them better than you treat your own daughter, because that is somebody else's child come in your home, become part of yours. And what dharma comes in. When you can see another person's child as yours, when you can see that daughter as yours, and we have to make sure that that's perpetuated. And I want to give an example for Ramayana with the permission of Pandishwar Pranjaidat. Do you know when Sita Mata was sent to the forest? The Ramayana has this, but the Bhavanam don't read it. I don't know why. When Sita Mata was sent to the forest, Kaushila, Kekai, and Sumitra went to Sri Ram. The Sri Ram, where is Sita? He said, "Let's send her to the forest." He said, "What? You send my daughter-in-law to the forest? That can't be acceptable." You know what he did? He said, "Antar dhyan se apne sharir ko bhasma kar diya." With their internal shakti and power, they burn themselves to ashes. They say, "We can't live. If you do not want our daughter in your home, we can live here again." That's the example of Ramayana. So nobody asks you, what does Ramayana say about daughters-in-law? Daughters-in-law are so important that if the son doesn't want them, then the mother-in-law, mothers-in-law don't want to be in the house neither. So they have done that. This is how Kekai, Sumitra, and Kaushalya, life came to an end because Sri Ram sent Sita to the forest. So when you do the Kanyadan, you are given that person the responsibility of taking care of that child. Not literally. It means that if leaving your family and got another family, the girl, according to Jayat, may be working for more money than you. The girl who you married in may be more intelligent than you, but she's coming to your home, into your tradition, into your parampara is called. So you have to take care of her, make sure she gets what is required. And that's another thing I'll talk about later on. I'll pass over to Pandit Ishwar. But what happens is that when a girl is married nowadays, we have the modern trend. The Dulahin have a responsibility to her. The girl nowadays tell the man, "I'm not going to marry only buy a house separate for your mother and father." But tell she, "Go, man, go. If she only live with your mother and father, we should only live with you." It is a training process. Let the girl marry and come to you, live in your home. You want to buy a house? You have the money? Wait at least 2-3 years. Let her be indoctrinated into your way of life, how your mother and father treat you, what your tradition and your home. And when that happens, then you can go live wherever you want. But when the girl gets married, live with your mother and father. Why? That comes to everybody. On the dying, go down, you'll hold her a ball. Oh God, I didn't know them. So all these things, the Hindu marriage is very, very sacred, very, very scientific, I will call it. So we have that, the Kanyadan. I'll pass on to Pandit Ishwar, who can talk about other aspects of the event, even Kanyadan itself. Pandit Ishwar.
Thanks, Panditji. And I wanted to just go back a little bit before the Kanyadan, just so that our viewers will understand that every aspect of the wedding, the Viva Sanskar, is significant. Now, while there are others that we ascribe greater significance to, if we had to pick and choose the most important aspects, but I wanted to just dwell on a few things. So even the Agwani, as we call it, where the two fathers meet, both sides would meet and they embrace each other. Look at the wonderful meeting. This is how family life should be in Sanatan Dham. What are they telling our young people? Work together, love each other in harmony. Yes, there'll be differences from time to time, but put those things aside and work together. Then you'll see quite often, there's a significant part is done, with great, amusement to some people. You will see the Pirha Sankal being done. And the Pandit will tell both fathers, to match up, right? So if one will put 100 on each of the palm leaves, the others will do it. Now, all that is just fun because we know it's a start that they're given to the married couple, but the Pirha is blessed. That Sankalp is done. Why? What is significance? Among many things you are saying to the bride and groom, sit, do your worship, pray, and sit together and pray. This is why, blessing of that pure among many things is so important, right? Quite often you find that long after, and I know Panagyan Panajad will realize this, and this is something I find ridiculous. You'll see the Dulahin sitting and they say, well, Lakshmi Puja, so I will sit for this puja. And next month when we do Hanuman Baba Puja, the husband will sit. Sanatan Dham teaches us sit together for your pujas often or as far as possible. Bride and groom after marriage sit together. Your blessed pure heart. Sit on your pure heart if it's still in good condition and do your puja. Then, so we were on the point of I wanted to make that clear to everyone because every single little ritual or little part feature of the ceremony, you can talk to your pandit and get more details about it. So after the Kanyadan, and today we have to say it is not always Kanya. Kanya we know means virgin. We have the Kanya Kumari puja that we would do with the 9 little girls that are honored for Navratri period. But Kanya sometimes we will now say Putri Dan, the giving of a daughter. And that itself, I want to appeal to, I can't only say, the girls or young ladies, but the young men also who may, frustrate or young women or young ladies, whether entice them or frustrate them or encourage them, maintain your, purity. Keep yourself pure until marriage. And I don't want to say anything more. But Kanyadan should really be Kanyadan. We compromise and we say Putridan. And why? Because sometimes we do not live up to that ideal. But as far as possible, and this is what our Sanatan Dham teaches us, it should be Kanyadan. And I say no more. You understand that. Then we come to Granti Bandhan. Of course, the tying of the cloth, that knot between both the bride and the groom. That is not just symbolic, these two souls, the Atma being joined together, both of you being joined together. And then after that, yes, there's the Power Puja that is done, very significant, of course, but the Lava Bhavar, walking around the fire. Extremely important. But you see that tying of the knot, once that is done and you're bound together, as Sanatan Dham says, for 7 lifetimes, the Dulhan are joined together in Viva Sanskar. Understand how important it is. As you go around the Bhavar, 7 rounds you make, right? 7 rounds, whether we say 7 lifetimes, there are also the Saptapadi, the 7 steps that we make that sometimes we incorporate into the Bhavar as you go around. And as you go around, the lava, the patch lava is offered into the fire. As the Dulahin's brother will pour and you fan it out onto the Bedi. Extremely significant. So going around the fire, walking around the fire is perhaps the most recognizable feature, apart from the Jaimal exchange of malas that you always see. Pandit Gandhi mentioned Bollywood, Indian movies. Anytime you think of a Hindu wedding, one of the most significant parts that you will see is the Lava Bhavar or Agni Pradakshina, as it is called, going around the fire, circumambulating the fire. This is an essential feature. And as far as possible, as long as it's that traditional Viva Sanskar, we must maintain this Lava Bhara. Very important. Hand over, after that, so many other wonderful aspects of the marriage comes in, but I'll give Pandit Jai that opportunity to continue.
Okay, thank you very much, Panditji. And yes, all of those are critical parts so that what we are discussing is what is the precedence for the Vivaha Sanskar that we see. And as we mentioned, we have the marriage that we spoke a lot about that in the first half of the program, which is the legal part. Now we are speaking about the spiritual part and what really sanctifies this Hindu wedding, this Vivaha Sanskar. And we have heard from Pandit Gyandev, Pandit Ishwar. For me, I know that, of course, agreeing with all of that. But I always say to whenever I do a wedding, perform a wedding, that the vows is a critical part. And in Hinduism, we know that there are 4 foundation pillars: Satyam, Saucham, Daya, and Dhanam. Truthfulness, compassion, truthfulness, cleanliness, compassion, and charity. And maybe Panditji can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that Satyam comes at the beginning, is the first one. And there are other instances also in Lanka Khan, when you were looking at that chariot of virtue, and we talk about that flag and what it represents, and all righteous action, and truthfulness was identified amongst all of the righteous attitudes and all of that. truth was mentioned as the most important one, or given special mention. And again, we speak about Satyam, Saucham, Dayandanam, and truthfulness, and therefore our word becomes very critical. And therefore, when you do the Hindu marriage vows, that becomes a very critical part of the wedding and the ceremony. What you're doing is you're showing your willingness, so you're indicating your willingness to do whatever it takes to have a marriage work. So that yes, we can walk around fire, we can have all of the good intention and all of the happiness and celebration and pomp and joy. But how long does that last? And Panditji, all of us have been married for a number of years, and there are those who are much older than us who have been married for longer than we have been married. And they will tell you that as the years go by, if you don't have that commitment, if you do not bring back that memory, then of course that marriage cannot last. So that marriage is not about love. Love is important. We all know that. But we can have love for anyone and anything. And love changes. But what matters the most is that commitment that you have made. And that commitment that you make in front of, again, the Devata and the pundits and parents and friends and family, that becomes so critical because that is the foundation of Sanatan Dharma. Giving your word and maintaining that word. So the vows become very important. That's a critical part. And whether you are doing it in the whole, with 3-day wedding, or whether you're doing it by a table, and again, maybe we'll have to continue the discussion next week. We didn't even get into the part with the 8 types of wedding that Panditji will share with us. But we have a simple wedding. And in that simple wedding, at least a vow is given by both parties that they're willing to, to live guided by these vows that they make to each other, these conditions of the marriage. And of course, we have the rings, and then we have the sindoor, which is always that indication of a Hindu, of a married woman. And what does that say? The sindoor is for two purposes. It's for others to respect a woman who's married, and it's for a woman for herself to always be reminded that her actions in society, that sindoor should be a reminder to everyone that I must conduct myself in society in such a way that I respect my home and my lineage and my family and all of those things. And those are some of the other parts that we see as critical in Hindu marriage. And then have talk part and all those things, which sometimes we don't see that in all of the marriage. So I think that we have touched on the key things, and what I will do as we're coming close to the end of the program, just a possible first to Pandit Gyandi. We have 4 minutes remaining. So Panditji, maybe 2 minutes, Pandit Ishwar 2 minutes, and Pandit Ishwar will close off our program for today.
I would just like to mention, and I'm going to give the answer. We have a way of feedback through our lines and so on, and our text and so on. You can let us know. It said the rightful place of the Hindu married woman is on the left side of the husband. The rightful place of the Hindu married woman is the left side of the husband, and I think that is wrong. That is not the right perspective. So feedback and tell me what you think about that. What does that mean really? And next program, I will continue this discussion and let you know. And lastly, Samling Viva means same gender marriage. I'll emphasize has no place in Hinduism. What society does that? Their business. Might as well any society. But that same gender marriage is not part of Hinduism. Ishwar Maharaji.
Thanks, Panditji. So as we come to the end of this program, and we look forward to continued discussion with regards to marriage and some of the other aspects that we didn't touch on. Just one thing I wanted to mention, as we said in the beginning, marriage, of course, the Viva Sanskar that we follow here in Trinidad and Tobago takes pattern from what is there, as reference in terms of the Brahm Viva Vidhi, if I could use that term. And one of the best examples would have been the marriage of Prabhu Sri Ram and Sita Mata. And apart from walking around the fire, as I said, Pandit Jaidat mentioned, table wedding, Jaimal wedding, as we say, which is another thing that perhaps we could discuss on certain things that, or modifications that can be made. But certainly the, Jaimal, the exchange of malas, this is something that is most vivid in the mind of many people. And this is something that's essential. And it takes pattern then from that union that took place thousands of years ago in Treta Yuga, Sri Ram and Sita Mata. So I want our, our children, young boys, young girls, and not so young also who have been married, understand that it is a sacred union. and you are following the tradition of our ancestors, you are following the tradition set out and, identified, clearly identified and listed in our scriptures. Don't make joke with it. And one thing I want to say as we conclude, we have maybe about a minute to go again. And for Bhagwan's sake, I will say to our viewers, respect the sanctity and purity of a marriage. So when you go to a wedding, quite often, our Hindu brothers and sisters, sometimes they're a little upset when they hear getting married in a wedding, in a temple, because they know certain things that they would like to do, they can't do on the compound of a temple. Drink certain beverages and certain type of behavior. And it may seem ugly to say, but as we come to the end, maybe you have a wedding to attend this weekend coming, I don't know. But respect that it is a puja, is a religious ceremony being done. And for, I always tell my chelas and all those involved in weddings that I would do, and I know other pundits also, fast and prepare yourself properly. Sometimes we do puja and you have the witnesses, you do weddings, sorry, the witnesses come in and you can smell something on their breath. And there are others coming up and you feel that, it irritates you, it frustrates you as a pundit. I'm appealing to our people. Show respect, pay respect to the pundit, of course, to your guru, but pay respect to the elders around and show your love and true consideration for those who have invited you to their Viva Sanskar and to be a part of it. Fast if you have to fast. Prepare yourself properly. Don't partake of anything, whether beverage or food that will break that sanctity that we have and that purity that exists for the Viva Sanskar. And you intelligent people, leave whatever other type of behavior for reception and so on afterwards. So these are some of the things that I see that, we as Hindus, we need to work on still. We need to work on. Understand what we are saying is for your betterment, for the uplift of Sanatan Dharma and our Hindus in general. So at this time, I want to thank you on behalf of Panagyandev, Panajayada for joining with us for the last hour. And as Panajayada indicated, we will be continuing this fruitful discussion next week. Sitaram.